Have you ever looked at someone you love, felt a raw truth burning in your chest, and chosen to say something completely different instead? It happens in a fraction of a second. Your heart rate spikes, your throat tightens, and out comes a version of reality that simply isn't real. You tell your partner you are perfectly fine, even though you feel entirely invisible. You tell your boss you have everything under control, while you are quietly suffocating under the weight of panic. We all do it. We demand absolute honesty from the world around us, yet we filter, reshape, and distort our own truths every single day. We despise being deceived, but we treat our own deceptions as necessary acts of emotional survival. Why do we live in this constant contradiction? What are we actually running from when we choose to step away from the truth? There is a hidden psychological architecture behind every single untruth we tell, and it is far deeper and far more heartbreaking than simple dishonesty. If you think people lie just to get away with bad behavior, you are missing the most profound piece of human nature. The real reason people lie is a secret most of us are too terrified to admit out loud. And by the time you understand it, you will look at every conversation you have ever had in a completely different light. To truly understand this, we have to look past the malicious deceptions we see in movies. Think about a quiet, ordinary relationship. Let us imagine a man named David. David has been happily married for 7 years, but over the last month, something shifted. He lost his job. Instead of coming home and breaking the news to his wife, he gets up every single morning at 7 o'clock. He puts on his suit, he packs his briefcase, he kisses her goodbye, smiles, and tells her to have a wonderful day. Then he drives to a lonely parking lot on the edge of the city, turns off the engine, and sits there in total silence for 8 hours. He does this day after day, week after week. If you look at this from the outside, you might say David is a liar. You might say he is betraying the trust of the person who loves him most. But if you look deeper into the cold, quiet space of that car, you see something entirely different. You see a human being who is utterly paralyzed by terror. He's not lying because he lacks morals. He's lying because he believes that his truth makes him unlovable. He looks at his wife and realizes his entire identity in her eyes is tied to being a provider, a protector, a rock. In his mind, confessing the truth means watching the respect in her eyes evaporate. So he constructs a false reality. He builds a beautiful, fragile fortress of words to keep her safe from the chaos and to keep himself safe from her rejection. This brings us to a devastating realization about human behavior. We do not lie to alter reality. We lie to construct a version of reality where we are still worthy of belonging. Every untruth is, at its core, an emotional shield. When we are young, we learned very early that the truth carries a price. Think back to your own childhood. What happened the first time you made a massive mistake and confessed it completely? If you were met with anger, screaming, or emotional withdrawal, your developing brain coded a highly dangerous lesson. The truth leads to pain. The truth leads to isolation. Conversely, when you hid the mistake, or when you conformed to what the adults wanted to hear, you were rewarded with warmth, safety, and approval. Without even realizing it, we developed a survival mechanism. We learned that compliance brings love, while vulnerability brings danger. We carried this exact blueprint into our adult lives. Now, when you tell someone what they want to hear instead of what you actually feel, you are not trying to manipulate them. You are trying to manage their emotions so that they don't withdraw their affection from you. But here is the psychological twist that most people never notice. When you lie to protect someone else's feelings, who are you really protecting? Think about the classic white lie. A friend asks if they like their new creative project, or a partner asks if they look good in an outfit. You say yes, even if you think otherwise. We call this kindness. We call it manners. But if you peel back the layers, you find a subtle form of self-preservation. You are not just avoiding hurting them, you are avoiding the deeply uncomfortable experience of witnessing their discomfort. You are avoiding the tension, the awkwardness, and the potential conflict that honesty might create. You lie because you lack the emotional capacity to hold space for their disappointment.
In a way, a lie is never truly about the person hearing it. It is always a silent confession of what the speaker is terrified of losing. Consider the sheer exhaustion of maintaining these false realities. Every time you speak an untruth, you open a debt with reality, and eventually that debt must be paid. A lie requires maintenance, it requires memory. It requires you to constantly police your words, your facial expressions, and your body language. You have to remember exactly what version of the story you gave to which person. The human mind was not built for this level of division. When you live a life fragmented by small deceptions, your brain exists in a state of chronic low-level stress. You are constantly on guard, waiting for the moment the mask slips. Why do we willingly choose this heavy, exhausting burden over the simplicity of what is real? Because the truth requires something most of us are completely terrified of: vulnerability. To be completely honest with someone means standing before them entirely naked, with no armor, no filters, and no guarantees. It means saying, "This is who I am, with all my flaws, my failures, and my ugliness. Now, decide if you still want me." And for a fragile ego, that risk is simply too high to take. Let us look at another common scenario that happens in almost every workplace and social circle: the lie of competence. Have you ever stepped into a new role or a new social group and felt like a complete fraud? You nod along during meetings, pretending you understand the jargon. You agree with opinions you do not share just to blend in. You build an image of a highly capable, unflappable professional. On the surface, it looks like confidence, but underneath, it's a desperate attempt to outrun shame. We lie about our qualifications, our experiences, and our past successes because we are terrified that if people saw our true starting point, they would judge us as inadequate. We create a fictional character to live our lives for us, hoping that this character will achieve the validation we feel we do not deserve as our authentic selves. But this creates a profound psychological paradox. Even when the world applauds your success, you cannot feel the joy of it. Why? Because deep down you know they are not applauding you. They are applauding the character you created. You remain completely unloved because the real you was never even in the room.
This leads us to a massive, life-altering perspective. If you want to understand why people lie to you, you have to stop looking at their words and start looking at their fears. When someone close to you distorts the truth, your immediate instinct is to feel betrayed, angry, and insulted. You feel like they did not respect you enough to give you the reality of the situation. But what if you changed the question? What if, instead of asking, "Why did they lie to me?" you asked, "What are they so terrified would happen if they told you the truth?" Suddenly, the deception stops looking like an attack and starts looking like a cry for safety. When someone lies to you, they are rarely trying to overpower you. They are usually showing you the exact boundaries of their own helplessness. They are revealing the places where they feel weak, defective, or deeply insecure. They are betting that your love is conditional, and they are terrified that they are about to run out of currency. Think about the profound realization that occurs when we apply this to ourselves. You do not miss the people who lied to you because of the falsehoods they spoke. You miss the version of yourself they activated when you believed them. You miss the safety you felt before the illusion shattered. And when the truth finally comes to light, the pain we feel is rarely just about the facts of the lie. It is the sudden, violent death of the reality we had built our safety upon. It is the realization that we were standing on solid ground that turned out to be nothing but fog. This is why discovery hurts so deeply. It forces us to mourn a world that never actually existed. But there is a much deeper truth waiting at the center of all of this. If we are completely honest, the most dangerous lies we ever encounter are not the ones spoken by partners, friends, or colleagues. The most destructive deceptions are the ones we tell ourselves. We lie to ourselves about our happiness.
We tell ourselves we are content in a dead-end job because it is safe. We tell ourselves our toxic relationship is just going through a rough patch because we are too terrified of the loneliness that awaits us if we leave. We look at red flags and paint them white, pretending they are just signs of growth. Why do we lie to our own minds? Because self-deception is the ultimate psychological anesthesia. It numbs the pain of a reality we are not yet strong enough to change. It allows us to sleep at night in a burning house, convincing ourselves the smoke is just a beautiful autumn mist. When you finally decide to drop the shields, something incredible happens. You realize that honesty is not just a moral duty you owe to other people. It is a profound gift of freedom you give to yourself. When you stop lying, you stop running. You accept reality exactly as it is, with all its sharp edges and painful truths. You allow yourself to be seen. Yes, some people will walk away when they see your unedited truth. Yes, some connections will break when you stop performing the script they wrote for you. But the connections that survive will be real. The love you receive will actually belong to you, not to the mask you wear. You will finally experience the deep, grounding relief of being known, accepted, and loved for exactly who you are, failures and all. You will realize that you do not need a fortress of words to protect your worth. Your worth was always there, waiting for you to stop hiding it behind a lie. But if we look closely at this entire cycle, a strange and unsettling puzzle begins to emerge. If lying is nothing more than a defense mechanism designed to protect our connections and keep us safe from rejection, why is it that we so often find ourselves drawn to the exact people who deceive us? Why does our intuition fail us? Or worse, why do we sometimes choose to believe a beautiful lie even when the painful truth is staring us directly in the face? What is it inside the human heart that makes us actively participate in our own deception? Why your mind craves the lies of toxic people?